Welcome to another episode of Price Targets with your host Bitcoin Jack. Welcome back. It's going to be a very interesting video because I think there is a good chance that we're going to see some crazy weeks ahead of us. 1, 2, at least, but maybe 3 to 4 weeks, possibly a full 6 weeks of very, 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 very nice markets to the upside. So we'll dive into that. We'll also talk about the downgrade of Moody's on America's credit. I think that's important to note, although in the short term it's not going to be that relevant, but it's something that we need to keep in the back of our minds towards August. We'll talk about that. First, your attention full backpack. I honestly think, guys, that this is the best exchange I've used in a while. The fees are very, very good. The liquidity is good. There is really good market makers on the platform. They have a great, honestly, the best liquidation engine where it does partial liquidations instead of full positions. And it has a very seamless, integrated way of trading spot, futures, and lending. So you can even integrate a wallet into it and lend into that wallet where you go on chain and do stuff with it. So it's very, very, very interesting. I think it's it's on its way to be a tier one on all metrics. And when it comes to features, it's definitely a tier one. So Backpack, great, great, great exchange. And if you join through my ref link, I'm giving half my commission back to you guys through my ref link, which is discounted from your fees. So you get 20% off your fees, which is a unique offer. So I would say use it, join, and come and try out the exchange. You're going to love it. That said, without further ado, Bitcoin. We had the highest weekly close ever last week. And on the daily, we've had the highest daily close ever here below the green line. Look at how it navigated the resistances. There's this range. Arguably, this should be a range. Resistance here of the monthly and the weekly levels. Support below here, which it definitely kind of failed, but it went here. It pierced through. Now it's pierced to the other side, and literally all it has managed is wicks into the level below, like halfway the range, but nothing more than that. I think this is coiling up to break out to new all-time highs this week. Maybe if it's slow, another couple of days into next week, but this kind of looks like it's elevating upwards, and the big level after this is going to be 144k Bitcoin USD. There's not really much I can further elaborate on this. This is incredibly bullish in my opinion. The weekly level we've been hugging for a week. We haven't been able to kind of break it to the downside. We broke up here, and the flush has been bought up straight away. So essentially what that means to me is that we're getting acceptance above the weekly level here. We're battling with, kind of the last bit of resistance, but nothing major. I think anyone shorting here is, putting themselves at risk to, get really, really flush to the upside. I mean, there's all this panic and fear about the Moody's downgrade of US credit. And honestly, that is an issue because firms will have to kind of rebalance their risks based on their rules, what they can hold. And if it's not AAA plus but AAA1, then that means they need to sell off some of their positions in US credit, US treasuries, which kind of does shake up the market. But we're seeing people step in, buying treasuries. We'll jump to that later. And I don't see any issues except for Japan. Japan is, having a yield crisis again, but it's not at the point where I think it's going to immediately affect the market. So I think we have, in terms of time, at least into June, like mid of June. If we put it like this, mid of June, like June 16th, June 14th, June 18th, to get to the level here. Maybe that's completely wrong, but I think that's how I'm going to play it. We've had an incredible run on ETH. ETH is consolidating a little bit, but the beautiful thing on ETH BTC is that we broke and reclaimed the weekly level here. That's off this block here, and it retested it and it's bouncing off it. So essentially what I'm expecting here is continuation of the larger move. This is a very impressive move to the upside. So I think this is going to be a shallow retrace. If we consider the move to be from here, that's the 0.382, almost the 0.5 retrace level. And that should target the weekly above here. And I think it's going to do something similar where it kind of pierces through. As it comes into it, there's going to be a lot of people going to be short, and the resulting move will be basically this above the weekly level. So weekly level, a little bit of resistance on the weekly. It's going to look like this, but back up, and then further continuation to rate these highs somewhere in this range, and then get rejected and retest the level here. Just a guess, but this is the biggest signal that we have, wind in the back and things are looking good. So that's just how I want to play the market. I don't want to overcomplicate it. So mildly put, I need to, of course, discuss where I'm wrong, which is when we get below acceptance below the level here. And then I know it's going to be difficult to know kind of where to trade towards to, but I guess the place to be bidding, because everyone's going to think it's going to retrace all the way to here, is going to be the place where it started to started its capitulation here. That's probably the level that's going to hold, and then move back above the level here. So essentially, as a setup, if that happens, let's say this happens, I would be a bidder here and add as we reclaim the wick here and the weekly level here, and then target here and here. ETH USD. I've shared this on Twitter. It's a pretty mighty setup. I think the 8 hour is the lowest time frame you can really see it on, because if you go to the 12 hour, yeah, basically there's the 12 hour setup as well here with the little bearish candle here. I think it's more appealing when you look at it from the 8 hour. Essentially, you have the low here into the demand here. There's this whole like kind of range here with just up only candles. If this is bullish, it should hold the level here and have reaccumulation around the level, essentially, to motor into the next resistance, the weekly resistance at 3,200. So basically what this is you could always play it like this and then have the stops below here. This is hindsight, of course, but I shared it on Twitter in real time. And then target here, which is a great setup. That's a huge like risk to reward setup. The other way to play it is when it reclaims the level, so you're not kind of catching the knife, and then you basically, once it reclaims it, you put your stop below the level here, or if you want to be safe, you put it below the wick here, which is still an amazing setup. Like, you would have to pull it back a little bit to give it a bit of space, but that's still a huge setup. So the monthly level here still to be decided upon, but if we can hold above it and start to motor above the weekly level here that we got rejected off, that's probably a sign of continuation. There is a little bit of a downtrend here that we're kind of battling right now, which is should decide whether this is gonna go to the upside, or that we're gonna see some downside. And if it's going to see more downside, it's difficult to say what point here it's going to use, because I don't think it's going to fully retrace the whole thing here. Um, so I don't want to jump ahead and make any predictions on how that's going to look, because that's just, I don't know. Um, Bitcoin, that one went a bit, shitty. Because essentially what I said last time is that once we reclaim the high of the 1st of May, that we should be able to kind of motor our way into to the, towards the $2 level. I still think that this is a very bullish setup in general. And it's, it might come down further into the zone here and then continue upwards. Or this is just the virtual accumulation where it's gonna kind of use this daily level at 120 as a point to start going up. But if the market is bullish in general, Bitcoin is bullish, alts are bullish, it is, in my opinion, one of the most probable trades that Bitcoin is going to perform well. It's got a lot of mind share, and I generally don't like memes, and I'm not really a trenches guy, but this asset has been, it's been a beautiful trade to watch this come up. And there is let's see, Ichimoku. If this can come up here and trade above the cloud, this is going to flip bullish. This is going to come up, pierce above the cloud as well. That's very bullish. So in that scenario, it's, in my opinion, at least going to test the highest daily close. And who knows what else is in store, because if Bitcoin is going to go to 144, there's going to be a massive wealth effect rippling through the market. So going to keep that in mind. Pango, very, very frustrating. But on the weekly, I think if it can kind of close back above 13, it should be able to continue its uptrend, with ultimately a target at the high, the open of the highest weekly candle in history, in its short history, which is at 32. So this is the chart that I really wanted to talk about with you guys. This is looking exceptional, in my opinion. Basically, what we're dealing with here is it's breaking out about above the price here. We're back in the cloud. The cloud is flat, which is a magnet, and we're kind of seeing a flip in the cloud. So basically, in a nutshell, is this is very likely to happen. If that happens, this is going to motor towards the exit of the cloud there, and this is going to flip bullish ever since June 2022. That's a full break of the entire downtrend indicated by the channel here, which means, in my opinion, that we're gonna go back to the previous cross, which is there. That's at 3x. That aligns with my broader view of the market, the alt market being very bullish. Like Ethereum Jack for a reason. This is looking exceptionally well. So just going to grab this chart for a little bit, because we've seen this chart quite a few times now. I've shared it quite a few times, and I've shared this one specific chart where I said, well, it would be very crazy to run the highs from somewhere over here. And the more I'm looking at the the Bitcoin chart and Ethereum chart, the more I'm thinking that this is going to happen before anything in TradFi is going to break. Could be Japan, could be something else, but I think in general, I think the alt market is about to at like 500 to 600 billion dollars in value. Very interesting dynamic. I'm not really sure whether it's gonna fuck off after, but you know, that's something for later. I'm gonna move this away. Then we have EOS, which is rebranded to Volta. They have a ton of Bitcoin in the treasury. If we're looking at, for example, MicroStrategy and how much demand there is for the, you know, basically them selling volatility, there should be a huge market for EOS using their giant stash of Bitcoin, and generally, you know, kind of raise money and raise liquidity through a token offer, which already exists by, I don't know, maybe providing yield towards it using the Bitcoin, which then gives them liquidity to buy more Bitcoin. So they might be able to kind of create this flywheel, and then the token becomes a method to get exposure to that flywheel. So I'm not exactly sure how that would look, but that's what I'm thinking they might be doing. And then if you look at the EOS BTC chart, it kind of looks like this is bottoming out. It had a, you know, essentially the same as when you were looking at the AVA chart. Roughly taken, this is a downtrend, and then it hugely punched through it, retraced here, even swept the lows here, and now it's kind of ranging and it's starting a leg up. So that looks promising to me. In terms of dollars, it's just, you know, it's that quote unquote that asset, and it's had, I like to look at the steps it puts in once it starts going sideways. So for example, that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. Usually that's enough. 3 is a magic number. It came down, it had its huge breakout pump, retraced like 95% of it, and now it's starting to coil up. So this to me looks ready. And look, surprise, surprise, I don't even have to like look at the Ichimoku to kind of see it, but because I recognize it. But we're inside of the channel here. It's going to flip bullish if this continues. The span is above price, and I think that we're going to follow the steepness of what we're seeing here. So essentially what I expect is that this is going to double fairly quickly, and then there's a new bull trend on EOS, or Volta, whatever. So exciting stuff. I'm going to put this away, hide it again, go to the daily. So stock market is for now looking as if it's, I mean, it's not bearish, it's a retest, but in my opinion, gaining the level here of the 24th of March should be a reason to not remain bearish biased. If it loses this again and it gets rejected, sure. But for now, it's above all the levels that we had as a resistance. This was the last place to be bearish, in my opinion. Midterm games are starting to come on, so I think being bearish here is just a foolish game unless we have anything to go off, like any signal or anything else. And I don't currently have it. The Japan yield situation could be a trigger, but I think that for now it's not going to be an issue. So I don't want to be the guy on the other side of climbing the wall of worry, and just follow along with it. Gold, I was thinking this should be going to 2,800, especially if the tariffs thing eases and stock market is going to perform well and the dollar is going to perform well. If we look at the dollar, we've talked about this earlier, below 100, in my opinion, was worth playing the sweep. Very similar to what we've seen in the past: sweep, pump, sweep, pump, sweep, pump. That's where I'm at with the dollar. So essentially, that means a bearish case for the dollar. We'll have to see what happens. But if Bitcoin is going to rally, stock market is going to rally, dollar is going to rally. There is a little bit less of tension on the geopolitical and monetary front globally through, ceasefires and less tariff kind of stuff, then there isn't really a reason for gold to continue that hard right now. And I mean, it's testing the level here. Let's assume it rejects it. It rejects price somewhere over here. It's going to accept inside this block, this bullish block, and it's probably going to come down below the wick here into the block here, which is around 2,800. So kind of where I'm thinking that gold should trade towards. And I think that's it. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the long-term treasuries. It's not really looking horrendous, especially considering we had the downgrade of Moody's of American credit, and it really hasn't moved that much. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a recovery here, and that tension be taken away. Eventually, when the Japan shit hits, if it hits towards, I think more towards August or like July, or maybe like some people are going to worry about it by the end of June, we're going to probably see it come back down. And then anywhere below here, like 110 to 112, that's the trouble area, because it would signal that we're going below the level here. And that's a lot of shit for US banks and other financial institutions around the world. So, but for now, there's midterms are coming. Trump is probably going to be friends with people again, and for now, that's going to sway positioning and sentiment on the stock market, on treasuries, on the dollar, on everything, Bitcoin, in a positive way. So that's where I'm at with my head. I hope that made sense. And I hope to catch you guys next week. Cheers.